The EQ we use in Audacity is slightly different from other audio editing software. This slight difference has a big impact on the final audio after processing. I make custom EQs and presets for people, and a few days ago, I received a special case. The user who sent me a voice recording was not satisfied with the processing she performed. She was using a high-end microphone, and trying to improve her recording in post-processing. Her recording room was quite well acoustically treated, so she expected a warm, rich voice after recording. She was not happy with the result and sought my help. I will explain in a bit why she was not getting the desired result. Before that, let me show you the difference between Audacity EQ and Adobe Audition EQ. I have opened an audio sample in Audacity and Adobe Audition. This demo sample is not from the client who is struggling with the processing. This recording is from another client. I am still working with the struggling client, so not publishing her audio at the moment. I have opened the same audio file in Audacity and Adobe Audition. They are exactly the same recording, and I will apply the same EQ with different software. I will play a couple of seconds from the recording to ensure you that they are the exact same recording.
About noon the next day, the boys arrived at the dead tree. They had come for their tools. About noon the next day, the boys arrived at the dead tree. They had come for their tools.
You could hear the same recording from different editors. I will now apply EQ in Audacity. I hope you already know some of the EQ process, so not explaining the steps. I will use filter curve EQ. The EQ I am going to use can be described as a high-pass filter on 80 Hz. I am cutting down all the frequencies before 80 Hz. If you do not already know, this minimal EQ should be applied to any voice recording to reduce low-frequency noises. I will do the exact thing in Adobe Audition. I will apply a similar curve. In Adobe Audition, those types of curves can be drawn from a parametric equalizer. I already have such a curve open here. I will adjust some settings to make them identical. I will choose a higher value for gain. I used a steeper cut in Audacity, so I'm making something similar here. I think this curve now looks the same as Audacity. I will apply it. What I will do now will require a bit of concentration from you. I will switch back and forth between the before EQ and the after EQ from history. While I do that, you have to look at the waveform to see the changes. If you pay close attention, you will see that the waveform looks to be pushed up after EQ. The changes are easy to notice in the case of Adobe Audition. I will now go to Audacity and do the same experiment. If you do not know about Audacity history, it is a nice place to remind you which effects you have applied. I will now conduct the same back and forth as I did in Adobe Audition. You will see that the changes are very difficult to notice. The waveform is not pushed as hard as in Adobe Audition. A very subtle change in the waveform. I am moving back and forth, but we do not see much going in the waveform. I will move the history window a bit down, so you can check from another angle. The change in waveform give us an idea about how the effect worked on the audio data. I applied the same EQ in both software, so we would expect the same behavior change in both software. It is clearly not the same, but what does it mean? It means that they are not working in the same manner practically. The algorithm used in Adobe Audition is different from the algorithm used in Audacity. The Audacity EQ creates a hollow, or thin-sounding effect. This difference compounds when you are searching for a complex EQ that suits your voice. If we listen to the audio, you may not notice much difference.
About noon the next day, the boys arrived at the dead tree. They had come for their tools. Tom was impatient to go to. About noon the next day, the boys arrived at the dead tree. They had come for their tools. Tom was impatient to go to the haunted house. Huck was measurably so, but suddenly said, "Looky here, Tom." About noon the next day, the boys arrived at the dead tree. They had come for their tools. Tom was impatient to go to the haunted house. Huck was measurably so. "Tom, do you know what day it is?" Tom mentally ran over the days of the week, and then quickly lifted his eyes with a start.
It is very subtle in this case. Unless you are using a very good headphone in a very quiet room, you may not feel any difference. Well, the impact compounds when we do EQ sweeping to find some sweet spots in the voice, or cut down some harshness. In this video, I want you to spot the waveform difference. You may wonder what the exact impact of this slight difference is. I first discovered it when working on a client's project. She had a good microphone and a good recording place, but Audacity processing failed to give the warm, rich sound. To bring up the rich and bright voice, I have to do with EQ sweep. I use FabFilter Pro Q3 to do EQ sweeping. It is a bit expensive plugin, but the interface is very simple. You have to do EQ sweeping to bring up the warmth and clarity of a recording. A simple boost or cut in the EQ can make a significant difference in the listening experience. You have to find those and then apply them to the editing software. If I replicate the EQ I find in Pro Q3 to Adobe Audition, I get the same result. But when I apply the same EQ in Audacity through Filter Curve EQ, I hear a hollow and thin sound sometimes. If the EQ impacts your voice in a big way, you have to use a better EQ plugin. The default EQ effect of Adobe Audition is fine. But if you use Audacity, I suggest using paid software like Waves F6 or a free plugin like TDR Nova. Waves F6 and TDR Nova gave me the exact tone I found with FabFilter Pro Q3. If you want to know how your voice will sound from a custom EQ or processing on your DAW, send me your audio recording, and I will send you a free demo. If you want that processing, you can purchase it from me. Usually, it is $127 from my shop, but I am offering a discount on my Fiverr gigs. I have 2 different gigs for Audacity and Adobe Audition. For a limited time, you can order from there for just $60. The reason I am giving this discount on Fiverr is to build my profile there. It will be a good time to grab the offer before it goes away. The links are in the description. Please keep in mind that not all EQ plugins are the same. Even if you explore EQ plugins in Waves, you will see many. All these plugins perform EQ, but they are different behind the scenes. It is not just about the user interface, the algorithm under the hood is different. If you want to learn all these things in a beginner-friendly but practical way, you can take my Advanced Audacity course. Advanced Audacity means you will learn advanced audio editing tips and tricks. You will find links in the description and in the pinned comment. If you want to learn advanced level audio editing, learn about EQ and compression well. A proper EQ and then some compression makes a big difference in the listening experience. Everyone uses the same noise reduction or normalization effect. It is the EQ and compression that separate the experts from the beginners.